and welcome to this final episode of Series 3 of the BCS Podcast. I recently took a trip to Japan and South Korea, and I was intending for this episode to be a special all about sports in Japan and South Korea. I even filmed some segments while I was over there. Sumo wrestling is the national sport of Japan. Here in Tokyo, 3 different 15-day championship tournaments are held here at Sumo Hall in the Ryojoku district of the city across the year, as well as 3 other cities across Japan. Such as here at the Ejion Arena in Osaka, where a 15-day championship tournament is held every March. Baseball is also incredibly popular in Japan. The MPB's Giants play here at the Tokyo Dome. As you can see, I'm out here before the game against the Tigers, and it promises to be a fantastic game. Baseball is also very popular here in South Korea. I'm outside the Seiga Stadium in Busan ahead of the LG Twins versus the Lotte Giants game. However, I sadly missed out on the 15-day Sumo Championship tournament in Tokyo, and I was also met by sellout after sellout throughout Japan when I tried to go to both baseball and football games, as well as when I tried to go to baseball games in Busan, South Korea. However, I did manage to go to a couple of baseball games in Seoul, and it has to be said that the atmosphere at Korean baseball games really is something else. Instead, let's look at what promises to be an eventful summer of sport in 2025. This certainly will not be an exhaustive list, but I will try to cover all of the major sporting events. And let's start with the FIFA Club World Cup. The new expanded 32-team tournament will start this Saturday, the 14th of June, and will run for a calendar month, with the final being contested on Sunday, the 13th of July. There has certainly been a lot of consternation around this new format, particularly given issues around load management for the players, given that it comes at the end of a long season for a lot of the players taking part, and a lot of the players have also just represented their countries in the summer international games. Ultimately, from FIFA's point of view, this is a rehearsal for next summer's FIFA Men's World Cup, and if FIFA and the local authorities are able to iron any kinks out now, meaning that the fans have a more seamless experience next summer, that at least will be a good thing. For more on this, let's hear from football writer Andrew Beasley.
I think it's an interesting tournament in the sense that if Liverpool were actually in it, I would probably care quite a lot more about it than I do, which is basically not at all. It's obviously designed to just generate money for the clubs involved and FIFA and things like that. So it's very hard to be too enthused about it if your club isn't involved. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a good thing for the players, who clearly need a rest. You know, it means that last season rolls almost inevitably straight into next season with very little time for recovery. So I don't think it will help the likes of Manchester City and Chelsea, the Premier League clubs who are going to be involved. While we shouldn't dismiss it too easily from their perspective, of course, because there are going to be smaller clubs from other nations and continents who don't play this level of team very often, if at all. So for them, it is a huge opportunity to put themselves on the global stage. It's just that from the point of view of the big teams around Europe, I don't think there's very much for them to gain from it, aside from the obvious financial benefit. In terms of who might win it, I actually had to write a preview about it recently, and I went for Bayern Munich. The reason being that they didn't go quite as deep in the Champions League as some of the other big clubs. Obviously, Paris Saint-Germain, who won it, they're in it. Inter Milan, beaten finalists. And also they won the Bundesliga a couple of weeks early, so they were able to rest a few players. And it's a league in which they only play 34 games, unlike the Premier League or La Liga, say, where they play 38. So they won't have played as many intensive games as a lot of the other clubs so far this season, and that might just give them the edge in a tournament where the biggest teams are all going to be pretty tired.
At the end of June, the third Grand Slam tennis tournament of the year, Wimbledon, will also take place. I can't pretend to be a great expert on tennis, so for more on this, let's head over to first-time contributor Toria Dennison.
It's the highlight of the tennis calendar for me. We have the challenge of grass courts, we hope for sunshine, and we always have pims and strawberries. It's a great time of year. Rain will inevitably cause havoc in the early rounds on the outer courts, but it wouldn't be Wimbledon without it. The two main courts do have a roof, so that disruption will be minimised towards the latter stages. The women's draw is super competitive. Coco Gauff will be looking to follow on from her French Open win, but Sabalenka, her somewhat salty defeated opponent in that final, will be the tournament favourite. Iga Swiatek, Madison Keys, Jess Pegula and last year's runner-up Paolini will all be in contention too, along with current champ Krejcikova. Andreeva continues to impress, and she's well up in the rankings. And although Naomi Osaka sits outside the top 50 in rankings currently, her quality and a favourable draw may take her into the later stages too. Definitely one to watch for me. The Brits will be pinning their hopes on Emma Raducanu and Katie Boulter, both of which could do some damage. Again, it depends on consistency and a favourable draw. As for the men, it's hard to see past Alcaraz and Sinner. I only hope that they're on different sides of the draw. Brit Jack Draper is having a fine year so far, and will have the crowd behind him, of course. He has the skill and the stamina to do some damage and go far. I'd love to see him make the semi-final or the final, again depending on how favourable the draw is. Of course, you can't write off Djokovic, even as he nears the end of his career. Others to watch: Zverev, Rune, Casper Ruud, and always the American contingent. They're always strong, including Taylor Fritz, Tommy Paul and Ben Shelton. Ones to win? Men, I'm going to say Jack Draper. And the women, I have to say Swiatek.
Before that, in July, the UEFA Women's European Championships will take place, with the final being contested on the 27th of July. England go into this tournament as the defending champions, but they also go into this tournament missing some important players, as both Fran Kirby and Murray Earps have both recently retired from international duty, and Millie Bright has opted to miss this tournament due to a knee injury that she has since had surgery on. What's more, England also go into the Euros having lost the FIFA Women's World Cup final to Spain 2 years ago, who will now go into the Euros as one of the favourites. For more on this, let's hear from friend of the show, ex-professional footballer Jo Lenton.
Excited about the tournament. England-wise, I think our hopes lie with Lauren James, to be honest. Don't want to put pressure on her young shoulders after the interesting time she had at the World Cup, but we need her, and I think she's a difference maker, so fingers crossed the hamstring issues she's suffered will sort themselves out. As for who I think is going to win, I think it could be a repeat of the Women's World Cup final again, so maybe us versus Spain, and we'll see what happens. Although this year, I think Germany are quietly sneaking back into contention after beating them in the last Euros final. France are always a bit of a wild card, so yeah, should be a good one. Tough group as well. We've got the Netherlands and France and Wales, so I don't know, it's going to be tough. But hopefully, if we can recreate the glory of the last one, I'll be happy. So, England, Spain, we're going to win it 1-0 this time. Come on, England.
Finally, let's end with a roundup of some of the other big sporting occasions taking place this summer.
Hey there, my name is Mark Strange. I'm a freelance sports journalist just looking ahead to this summer's British and Irish Lions tour to Australia. First of all, really excited to have the Lions tour back and a first proper Lions tour since 2017, given that the last one in South Africa in 2021 was interrupted by COVID. No home fans, let alone travelling fans for that one in South Africa, so it'll be great to have those sort of rowdy atmospheres back, particularly for the test matches. The beauty, I suppose, of a Lions tour is because it's every 4 years, there's no real form book or anything like that there. They're a tour onto their own, but I would make the Lions slight favourites for this summer. Australia, though, still have a lot of guys to look out for. Samu Karevi, in particular, in the centre, will be a really hard man for the Lions to stop. In terms of a couple of players to watch for the Lions, it's got to be Finn Russell. It's his time now. He's been, for a long time, he's kind of been the maverick out half and the one that everyone loves to watch, but you don't really want in your team because you're not sure what he's going to do next. But it's his time now. I think that number 10 shirt is his, despite all the other options there. A lot of talk of Sam Prendergast from Ireland, whether he would make the squad. He hasn't. Maybe still a bit young, but before his time, I would say give him 2029. That jersey might be his, but Finn Russell looks like he's going to be the man to lead this Lions side. Maro Itoje obviously as a captain, a brilliant leader, wonderful player, and he'll be such a real physical force up front. And probably if we're looking at a young player to watch, I don't think he can go much further than Henry Pollock, the young Northampton back rower, just the one senior England cap, only 20 years old. Yeah, it's going to be really, really exciting. It's one of those tough sporting events. For me, those events that come along only every few years, like the Olympics or the Ryder Cup or the World Cup in football, the Lions is right up there for me. So I'm really, really excited for this summer. And yeah, I think the Lions will do the business in the end. And fingers crossed for a great tour.
Hi, this is Chris Bates, Leicester Tigers fan. Before the Lions tour gets underway, there is just a small matter of tying up the domestic season here in England with the Premiership Final this weekend between Leicester Tigers and Bath. Probably the oldest and biggest rivalry in professional rugby, certainly in the professional era in rugby union in England. It's going to be tight. Bath have been the form team all this year, led by Finn Russell, the Scottish number 10. Absolutely mercurial, can do anything with the ball at any time, completely unpredictable, an absolute maverick. But up against him in the 10 slot for Leicester Tigers is Handré Pollard, who's won 2 World Cups with South Africa, so he's absolutely no slouch. Both teams have got a spattering of Lions players in and amongst, notable Ollie Chesham on the Leicester Tigers side, local lad done good. Part of the Chesham family, a few of those players now coming through the Leicester Tigers ranks, certainly to look out for over the next few years. My prediction, as a Tigers fan, I've got to say Tigers are going to nick it, but my head says that it's very, very difficult to look past Bath.
That's it for this episode and this third series of the Brett Chat Sports or BCS podcast. I will now be taking a break over the summer, but I will be back with new episodes in August. For now then, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you all enjoy your summers, and I certainly hope to see you again in August. Bye bye now. The BCS podcast is written, produced, edited and hosted by me, Brett Walker. Thank you to Boris Anderoff and Pixabay for the use of the music and sound effects in this podcast. This episode features contributions from Chris Bates, Andrew Beasley, Toria Dennison, Jo Lenton and Mark Strange.